There is nothing sweeter to a startup founder than when they find a problem in the world that they can repair. And today I'm really excited. We're going to have a chance to talk to the founder of HoneyCake. This is a solution to a very, very big problem that companies and individuals face all the time. So I'm really excited to welcome Will Luttrell to the show. Will, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, John.
I'm really interested to hear your story. So I even want to start, but I'm going to go like pre-HoneyCake and say, this is not your first rodeo as a startup entrepreneur. So give us a little bit about your background.
So I've been doing companies since 1998. My first company was Disk 11. We were essentially a SaaS provider for American Express. Two 26-year-olds convinced the American Express organization we were a real company. And for a long time, for 12 years, interactive parts of the American Express website were running on my servers in Kentucky and in the AT&T building in Manhattan. I went from there to found a company called Integral Ad Science, took it from, a small founding team. And I was chief technology officer there and co-founder, a small founding team, up to a private equity sale to Vista for $850 million.
Nice.
That company went public on NASDAQ and has just recently been taken private again by a PE firm for $1.9 billion, still based on a lot of the technology that I built there. I founded a few smaller companies. Some succeeded, some didn't. Sold one of them back to IAS, Amino Payments, which actually did a lot of our work in this actual building here that we work at 19th and Market. Yeah. I was then partner and chief technology officer at a big company, the Brand Tech Group. We went from 4,000 to 7,000 employees while I was there through some big acquisitions. And I've been an investor, advisor, board member to a bunch of smaller startups throughout the way. And that leads me to HoneyCake. So a lot of experience in small companies and big companies, being on one side of M&A table, on the other side of the M&A table. Yeah, just a lot of different kinds of experiences.
Yeah. I mean, really, to call you a serial entrepreneur almost sounds like an understatement when you hear all of it together. It's so first of all, I'm always fascinated when someone kind of goes through the process, has an exit, and then they're like, okay, I'm ready to jump right back in. And it seems like you've done that over and over again. What was it about HoneyCake that you're like, this is a thing that's going to be worth a focus and time coming up?
Well, yeah, HoneyCake was almost an accident. After I left the Brand Tech Group and I was doing my investing and advising, I had this idea that I was going to grab some PE money and do a big roll-up, do a bunch of acquisitions of companies in the space that I knew well. And so I grabbed my co-founder, Monica, and we started working on what would be a kind of a core technology to kind of stitch all these companies together around document management. And then we started hitting on the idea of a document that could be secured and then redacted differently depending on the viewer. And we got really excited about that and kind of threw the whole let's go get $200 million and buy a bunch of companies idea out the window and started focusing on this technology. And thus was born HoneyCake.
Nice. Well, and I mean, to me, what's interesting about it is it was a problem first.
Yeah.
It was a problem you spotted into the world. And, to me, it's like, it might be easy to just say, oh, this is a cybersecurity company, but it really isn't. That's not really the problem, but security is at the heart of it. What was it? Was there a time where you personally really thought like, this is a massive headache. Somebody needs to do something about this?
It's just constant. The need for file security is a constant headache, personally and professionally. Just backtracking 1 second, you mentioned starting with the problem.
Yeah.
Earlier in my career, when I was starting my very first companies in the 1990s and 2000s, someone was describing to me the difference between an East Coast entrepreneur and a West Coast entrepreneur.
I talk about that a lot.
Twitter was not solving a problem.
Right.
Facebook was started on the East Coast, but, San Francisco style wasn't really solving a problem. And they just said East Coast entrepreneurs solve problems. They see a problem first and then they try to build the solution there. Yeah. I don't know if that holds true in 2026, but very much I'm in that mold.
Okay.
128 characters is not a problem that needed to be solved, but it became a huge successful company. Personally, just every time I get one of those secure file share links from my kid's school or a doctor's office or my bank, and I have to go and log in, and they can't just send me a file over an email or whatever. Big pain point for me personally.
Sure.
A vendor asked me the other day for a copy of my credit card so they could re-up my annual subscription.
Yeah.
The big pain point for me personally. How do I send that information and keep it safe and secure? How do I know if they've opened it or not?
Yeah.
In the enterprise world, having been CTO at different groups and different firms, document security is a huge pain point. We've seen a lot of big hacks recently, and we can go into some of those if you want. But it's always, the wolves are always at the door.
Yeah.
And with the advent of AI and agentic hackers, Anthropic just announced that they saw their first fully agentic autonomous hacking activity.
Right.
This problem is going to get more and more severe. So, starting with the enterprise problems, but definitely I use our own product in my personal life frequently.
Right, right. Well, and so this is, I mean, to me, there's like several different headaches built in there. There's just the logistics of it. There's the security of it. What about impact? And maybe, you've kind of used the personal example. What's the impact of something getting out there? I mean, this is kind of a basic cybersecurity question, but what are some of the things you've seen happen when a piece of information gets out there that shouldn't be, and the wolves are right there waiting?
Well, identity theft is a huge problem, obviously. I've had people close to me who've adopted our software, and they're being asked to send out a W-9.
Yeah.
When you send an email out and you have an attachment that's unprotected, it's unencrypted, and I like to use the word protected because it's a little bit less scary than encrypted.
Yeah.
That email, you think it's just going to you and your recipient, but everyone that can open, I think we listed like 20 in a LinkedIn post I had. It's like anyone they forward it on to, their IT administrator, Google, Microsoft, whoever scans that document and keeps it on their servers. They're scanning it for good reasons, but it's still an unencrypted copy that's sitting out there. Of course, your boss can get a hold of it, and of course hackers can get a hold of it.
Yeah.
There's just if you send documents out unprotected, the number of eyeballs that are potentially on that are legion.
Right.
And the ramifications of someone getting your social security number, home address, a copy of your signature on a form, all these things can be used to eventually steal your identity, or any one of a number of bad things can happen.
Right. Well, and identity theft can take years to untangle, right?
Yeah.
And just the lost funds, or figuring out who's responsible, or trying to get control back of something that's been lost.
Well, and then on the corporate side, there's obviously the constant barrage of leaks of data. And I get an email a few times a year where your identity was in some breach or whatever.
Sure.
I think a little bit more, that's kind of obvious, but I think a little bit more interesting now, as we've seen in some of the recent hacks, is not so much that, but you're hacking a big corporation, and now you've got some of their secrets. You've got some of their internal communications. You've got, potential upcoming patent filings. You've got all these different things. You've got communications, which might be embarrassing. Maybe it's not a trade secret leak, right, but there might be something else kind of buried in there that is a secondary or tertiary consequence of having that information leaked. And the real shame of it is, all of it is so preventable.
Yeah.
Protecting your files is super, super easy. Well, solutions exist, and we think we're the best one.
Right. Well, so let's talk about that. And actually, I want to come back to, because it sounds like there's kind of this consumer problem that this could address, but there's also kind of a commercial enterprise one. Yeah. So we'll come back to that. But just fundamentally, what is HoneyCake doing that addresses this? And I'm kind of leading you here because I've seen it. It's mind blowing to me. Tell me a little bit about what it does and how it works from a user's perspective.
So I'm going to use this word now and then try not to use it the rest of the interview. So at the core of what HoneyCake does is layered encryption. Encryption is kind of a scary word because most people are used to encryption being this clunky, nerdy thing that's potentially problematic, because if you lose your keys, you've lost everything. What HoneyCake does is take that trade-off between security and simplicity, and we've eliminated it. It is now simple to protect your files. And then furthermore, it's simple to go into files and differently protect different parts of the file. So you can send out the same deck or CSV or PowerPoint, and you send it out to 10 different people and they all get a different version of that file based on who's opening the file. You've got one source of truth and different redacted sections of that spreadsheet or whatever. Furthermore, you can go in FOIA style and black box up documents, and depending on who's receiving it, they get to remove the black boxes or they don't. With complete high grade modern encryption standards, which means that nobody can get access to that document. Furthermore, we make it all super easy and auditable. You know who's opening your files. You can remove access to the files after, or remove access or add access to those sections of the files after it's sent. And it eliminates a lot of the fears around encryption. AI is very powerful. It can do just about anything. The one thing AI can't do is break encryption. So it's kind of where's modern compute going? Modern compute's going into AI. Modern compute's also going into cryptography. They're kind of a yin yang of the modern next evolution of where tech is headed.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think about when I was in the technology industry, we did a lot with blockchain technology. And I remember the one example that came around a lot was, so much of what we do, you give a lot of information when you really only need to share one thing.
Right.
The example was a driver's license. If you were going into a bar or a party and you're getting carded, there's really only one question you need to answer for the person that's checking IDs at the door. Are you over 21? Yes or no?
Right.
And yet, the first thing we do is we share with them driver's license number, birth date, home address, right? All these, your actual birth date. And so you're sharing tons of information when really only one question needs to be answered.
Right.
And, so to me, that was what I thought was really interesting the first time I saw Layer Cake is, wow, you can give the piece of information that's needed without exposing anything that's not needed. And I love that what you say, that single source of truth, and then you can share it with 10 people and each one of them sees something different because it's like a need to know. To me, this is the stuff of spy movies, where you see the redacted file with all the black lines in it, and your clearance level, you get more and more of the white text. What are some of the, I guess, maybe just kind of simple use cases you found are really, getting traction right at the beginning?
So, so many different things. One thing I have to worry about as an entrepreneur is we are so useful by so many different verticals and private, public use cases that I have to make sure I don't boil the ocean. I have to focus on, targeted use cases and really push those. But already, I've spoken with the chief compliance officer who is filling out security forms to send for different certifications or to customers who are requesting things. And he wants to redact out different sections. So normally that's a very manual process. And when he creates the redacted document, he's now got a new version of that document. So now he's sending out, and he's having to maintain, I've got 20 differently redacted versions of this one thing. Whereas in our world, he's got one. We were speaking with another company. They were letting go of their CEO. So setting up all the embargoed press releases and internal and external comms and documents. And you can imagine all the legal stuff that's going on there.
For sure.
Massive. There's a media company that talks about the need. Let's suppose they do business with Coke and Pepsi. Making sure that Pepsi, even if accidentally sent Coke's files, is unable to open them. I've heard major consulting companies, major media agencies that everyone's got their horror story about that happening. And if you might blow a $20 million account over something like that. One of my own personal stories is early on at Integral Ad Science, when we were called AdSafe, our office manager sent around a company directory Unfortunately for her, column E was everyone's salaries.
Ooh.
So everyone in the company had everyone else's salaries, which was super fun. By the way, that mistake was repeated later on in the company after I'd left. So it's a common thing. There are just so many boards of directors. You might send out a board report. Appendix C is internal board eyes only, not for the board observer, not for the independent, only for the 3 voting members. Or maybe there's a compensation committee that sees pages 7 through 9 or whatever. It really, there really is just so much you can do with this technology. One more example. A large agency receiving confidential information from a client, and it's got PII of consumers. You don't want to store that unencrypted, even on your own prem.
Right.
It's like, so have that so where only your head compliance officer, a few executives, and maybe an account manager can unredact the PII out of that data.
Right.
Those are the kinds of things that that we can enable, and again, we can do it pretty straightforward and pretty quickly.
Yeah. The one thing that really struck me was when I first looked at this, it was, the file could get to the wrong person and it's completely unopenable. You don't have the ability to do that. As someone who has a very common name, 2 things happen to me frequently. Number one, I get people's messages that weren't intended for me, but it was like they put it into their email and it's like mine came up. And I'm sure others are getting my emails when they shouldn't as a result. So this ability, like the file can arrive, but it's unopenable. But the other thing that really struck me was that, and I think this is, in the world of AI, everyone's talking about, even at the most basic level, ChatGPT, everybody's like, oh, isn't this the greatest thing? It's like, I was in the technology industry for over 20 years. We've been using that kind of technology for decades.
Yeah.
The difference was you had to be a coder to get into the front end and to do it. Yeah. And so I think the one thing that strikes me, so ChatGPT, I think, brings this really easy user interface. Now everybody can use it. And that was what I observed about HoneyCake, was that it was, it's that user interface that's like anybody can say, okay, here's the document. I'm going to break it into these 6 pieces. And I only want these 3 people to be able to see this piece, but everybody else can see 5 of the 6 and only this person can see all. So just that user interaction, it just seems like you spent a lot of time and energy thinking about that part of it.
I'm a big fan of deleting and deleting and deleting until you've deleted too much, and then add back in only when necessary, or when customers are basically clamoring for it. Just tried to make it simple. We launched with just 1 button. Right. Like literally it was just a cake, click the cake. Right. But then we saw that customers wanted access to, okay, where's a baked files directory of everything that I've baked? Where's what have I received that was a cake? And so we started adding in very, very judiciously what we add back into the interface. It has to be simple. I want people who are not technical able to easily use and trust our product.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where it sounds like that iterative process of like putting something in one at a time, seeing what's working. Have you ever pulled something back? Have you ever put something in there and thought, you know what, I don't think we really need that after all, and pulled it back?
Yeah, and we're quick to pull back. Like different directory structures or different buttons, and we've pulled a lot of that stuff out. I'm happy to say that we're now at the process of slowly adding back things, but again, it's very deliberate. I will say one thing. Our North Star for the company is that you actually don't interact with us at all.
Interesting.
Our North Star for the company is to be a platform that kind of underlies the security that you've already got. So we have a proprietary format, the cake file. We want to be embedded in your Slack. We want to be embedded in your email. We want to be embedded in your operating system, so that when it sees a cake file, it knows what to do with it. We're building right now an MCP server, which will allow agentic use of our product. So you can say, redact all my personal information. Sorry, I say PII with that. Right. Redact my personal information out of this document, and then you'll have an agent that goes and does that. Redact the appendix B out of this deck and Slack it to the board.
Nice. And
so those kinds of things.
It just knows what you want to do. It's one of the things I say frequently about AI, because everyone's talking about AI right now, but there's this time in the future, and I think it's only a few years out, where we're not talking about AI anymore.
Yeah.
It's just quietly doing all the things that we shouldn't be wasting our time on.
Yep.
And this feels like an example. And I think the MCPs are really kind of setting the stage for this for sure. But this feels like one of those examples where, for now there's a really clean, easy user experience, but eventually it just knows the patterns of the user and understands the context of what's happening. And the agent is making these calls, not even calling on the user to do that.
I think one of the things that's important in the space where HoneyCake wants to play ultimately is we've gotten so comfortable just giving up everything to AIs for convenience. We're trading security for convenience.
For sure.
There needs to be some thought. And again, ironically, this could be an AI. It could be an AI running locally and kind of sandboxed or whatever. There has to be something standing at the door which says, here's what AI can ultimately access. So the idea of like a folder. These are private documents. These are private pictures. These are private whatever. Just for whatever reason, only me. It could be your will.
Yeah.
If someone gets access to your computer. Which happens and is going to happen more frequently with agentic hacking and things like that.
For sure.
What am I going to allow them to see? What am I going to allow Gemini, OpenAI, Anthropic, whatever to pull in? Yeah. If you're using Google Workspace right now, Gemini has access to all your documents.
Everything. Yeah.
Same thing with Microsoft and Copilot or whatever. You should be able to easily control what is ingested by these LLMs and image models.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting because I've been using Gemini since very early on, and it was very evident to me that it had access to everything.
Yeah.
In the most recent kind of update to terms and conditions, they were much more explicit. Like, if you want to continue in this program, because I'm part of their labs or whatever, you have to just be okay with the fact that it has access to everything.
Right.
And so that does present some real concerns and challenges. It's kind of like, wow, everything that I've created now is available to the world. That's really scary. So I'd be interested in your take on, is the every kind of app or SaaS product that we use, there's a portal, there's a dashboard, there's an interaction point. Like, does a day come where those things all go away?
Yeah. Yeah. The day will come when you'll look at those things less and less frequently, and AIs will basically look at those on your behalf.
Yeah.
I'm not even convinced the MCP model is what's going to persist. In the way that self-driving cars have cameras.
Yeah.
And they see the world as we do. I think what's going to happen is AI is just going to get very, very good at just using the interfaces that you use. The early Claude Cowork does exactly that. It takes pictures of your Chrome browser and uploads them to Anthropic, and then uses the interface slowly.
Yeah.
But the exact same way a human would. No MCP required.
Interesting. So even that may be like intermediate infrastructure that eventually can be replaced.
Right. The world's built for, it's why robots that are coming are bipedal humanoid with 2 arms and a head.
Yeah.
It's because the world is built for us.
Right.
So AI will probably follow that same path, I think.
Interesting. I'd like to loop back to something you said, because I think it's a challenge for all, particularly early stage startups, is, who is our ICP, that ideal customer profile?
Yeah.
And I mean, you said something interesting, like this could be used in so many different ways. It can be really easy to like go too far, because you make something for everybody, it's no good for anybody. And at the same time, it's such a powerful platform. I remember one of our early conversations, I said to you, are you business to consumer or are you business to business? And it's like, well, there's really good options on either one. So just be interested in just your head setting. Like you have this robust platform that can be used so many different ways. As a startup, how do you, focus in, and what are some of the things that have happened along the way?
It's a real struggle is what I'll say. Just being transparent and open. It's kind of like asking, well, what business use cases is email good for, or Slack good for, or whatever. It's a very, very generalist thing. We're protecting your documents. So every company should be doing something like what we're using, a product, something like what we've built. So we started out with this idea that legal and accounting are probably the 2 quick wins here.
Mm-hmm.
Legal, because from my personal experience, I'm just always sending confidential documents back and forth with my attorneys as attachments, which is really important.
Yeah.
And accounting, same thing. I hate all those third party file share links. I want to just receive attachments and send attachments. What we've found actually is our first 5 use cases. One's in education. There's a school in Kentucky that sends out their ACT scores to their high school kids, and they're able to comply with federal guidelines. There's 2 media companies, and there's 2 health companies. We've thought about health and government as being the big whales on the horizon.
For sure.
But a health tech software company is receiving information from hospitals and primary care physicians, and they're using HoneyCake to transfer that information in an encrypted, protected manner. The other large company is just has huge legal and compliance headaches, and they're using us for internal communications and things of that nature. So I think that the early data is still not there as we seek product market fit. A lot of these connections are just because this adoption is just because these are people that I reached out to first. I have a very high hit rate. I just happen to reach out. I know people in media, and I know people in those companies, so they trust me. They know that it's not vaporware, that it's going to do what it says it does. We really need to begin. We're at the part of the journey where we need to begin that process in earnest after we get our first reference customers and figure out the answer to that question in a more data-centric, robust way.
So what about fundraising? What's been the, every startup kind of has that, okay, we got to at least get off the ground and get rolling. Like, what are some of the things you've done from a fundraising perspective, and what are some ways you've...
Fortunately, I'm in a position professionally, having been through the dance a few times and some exits. We've kept our burn rate intentionally low. My burn rate right now is $30K a month. The use of AI tooling for a software company is just insane what we've been able to accomplish and the pace. So I say that to say, I've put in $200,000 of my own money, and some friends have come in for another few $100,000, $520 total raised. And we're wondering about this fundamental question. We might accidentally become profitable very quick. We might accidentally become very profitable very quick. Because maybe with some quality of life, true ups in some of the internal team here, my burn can stay very low and I can get a lot done. So maybe we don't fundraise. Maybe because fundraising always comes with some handcuffs. And now you have stakeholders, and the people putting money in are representing LPs who have their own expectations of IRR and liquidation events and or at the very least secondary opportunities. And those things are a distraction if you're trying to build really cool, awesome tech and companies. No one should fundraise if you don't have to.
For sure.
I could basically fund this in perpetuity if absolutely necessary. So we'll see.
Well, it feels like there's 2 things converging there. I've having been in the technology software industry specifically for a lot of years. The beauty of once it's built, the kind of the next user on the platform is incremental. The kind of the cost of goods sold, the incremental cost is relatively small, and compared to, you have a lot of capital investment, but once you're going, it's like every sale just contributes to revenue. So it feels like that's at play here. But the other thing I'm hearing you saying, AI is kind of changing the game in terms of speed to market, how many people we need to hire, different types of things like that. I think
sorry to interrupt, but one question I would ask like early stage VCs is, what's your role now? Because a lot of times I wouldn't have been able to build HoneyCake in this kind of quasi bootstrapped manner that I've been using 5 years ago. I would have had to have raised money, and therefore there was this need for pre-seed capital or seed capital. The names of it all keeps changing.
Yeah.
My question back to the VCs is, looking at the camera, what's your role in a world where people don't need your money? And high school kid can bootstrap an amazing thing and potentially sell it, sell it to consumers or sell it off, in an acqui-hire or whatever, without any external funding at all, just working out of their bedroom.
Yeah. Well, and Sam Altman made the prediction this is going to be the year for the one person unicorn startup because of AI, vibe coding, and all the different AI tools. What are maybe several areas that have really had the most impact for you? Like, what kinds of AI capabilities that maybe weren't around 3 or 4 years ago that now have really been a game changer for you?
So obviously the software development, and there's been something that's clicked in the last 2 months in the capabilities of the software. It's developed some kind of, the only thing I can describe it is intuition. It used to be you had to really hold its hand, and it would work about 80% well. And then there's something I posted to our internal Slack. It's like, I use AI to code 90% of the software, and then I do the remaining 90%. And which was totally accurate. Now it anticipates problems. It sees around corners. It has design intuition. It has architecture intuition. It'll reuse code. It's just doing a lot of things that I expect a senior person to do if you give them good structured feedback. So that's one thing. I've actually been also using Claude Cowork recently, the ability for it to run a Chrome browser. The other day, I'm like, go into this folder, change up all these legal documents, set these schedules in the documents, change the start date to March 1st, et cetera, et cetera. It did all that. Then I said, now email those out to these 10 people, but not these 2. And it did that. Now, it did it very slowly, because what it's doing is it takes a screenshot in a trivial, and then sends it to Anthropic, comes back round trip 20 seconds. It's like, okay, I see that the email is filled out correctly. Now I'm going to add the attachments, screenshot. In a more trivial example, I actually asked it, am I double paying for Hulu and Disney Plus? And it logged into Hulu. I had to type in my password. And then I logged into Disney. It says, no, you're getting Disney Plus through your Hulu connection.
Interesting.
So it's basically the idea it can do all that in the background, though, while you're doing other stuff, is the unlock. We have I'm looking at them right now. We have sorry to break the fourth wall. We have a marketing associate who's a senior at Temple that's joined our team. He's not a web designer. He doesn't know CSS and JavaScript or whatever. But I set him on the task of updating our website. So anyone can go to honeycakefiles.com and see his work. What's really cool to me is to watch the code take, not just me, I'm 52, but take a 21-year-old generalist and give him superpowers at graphic design, at editing, at marketing, at whatever. That's going to be the next level unlock that is coming for all the rest of the knowledge workers, like it did for software engineers.
Amazing. So let's maybe draw a little bit on your experience from previous startups, because you mentioned now you're really trying to dial in on that product market fit, that ICP, that ideal customer profile. Let's say sometime in the near future you find that you've really locked in on it. What are, in your mind, what are the steps you're going to take to grow the business once you've established that?
So I love this definition of product market fit. I don't know, you and your audience may have heard it. You've achieved product market fit when the average salesperson can sell to an average customer.
That is a great way to say it.
I love it. Right now, it's all founder sales. But founders don't scale. I can be drawn into a lot of meetings, but I can't be drawn into every meeting once you hit that point. So sales and marketing is there's a lot more science to it than a lot of founders, early stage founders know. You have to get it to the point where you have repeatable results. That if I hire this salesperson, here's ramp up time, here's how much revenue they're expected to bring in, here's how they're supposed to scale. So the idea is that you have these, you have a sales cycle, about how long that is at these different companies, and then you're basically growing, you're basically farming a team of salespeople. I'm actually really curious how much AI starts disrupting that process.
Yeah.
How easy it is to for one salesperson to do the work of 1.5 or 2 or 2.5 or 3.
Yeah.
I don't know I don't think anybody really knows the answer to that yet.
Yeah.
And then same thing with the marketing function. So my first thing is going to I have a bit of a company structure thing that I'm playing with. So I'm a senior guy. My co-founder, she's also of similar age and experience to me. My CIO, who I brought on, who was employee number 1 at Integral Ad Science. He's been CTO at 3 companies, and he's now our CIO. He was my co-founder at Amino. Similar experience and background to me. The idea is you don't hire a bunch, and this is terrible news for young people, but you don't hire a bunch of young people. You hire a senior person that knows what the hell they're doing, and then they use a bunch of swarms of agents to be force multipliers, and then you hire maybe a few young people to do the same thing.
Yeah.
So my next hire, I think, is going to be a head of revenue, who is of a similar, probably in their 50s, probably on their 5th or 6th company, probably has big company and small company experience, and then tell them subscribe to everything. The opposite of GUI design, add all the buttons, and then cut whatever it is that you're not using, and then hire salespeople to augment you as needed. I expect this person to be able to touch 100 customers a week. I expect this person to be able to oversee a kind of an empire of sales activity.
Yeah.
With what would normally have taken 5 people.
Yeah.
And we'll see how well that model holds of a bunch of senior heads and fewer less experienced people.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, well, several things to unpack there. I spent the first 14 years of my career in sales. And then, before I went into sales leadership and more general leadership, but then when I went out on my own and became part of my first AI startup and now on my second one and doing some other entrepreneurial things, selling something that's been really put together and ready in that rinse and repeat mode, you find this customer, they have this problem, you have this value proposition, you have this pricing model.
Yeah.
It's the salesperson runs the selling process. I truly believe there are parts of the selling process that you can't replace with AI. But even in those days, it was so much of what I did strategically was to figure out systems so that I could maximize the amount of time I was talking to an ideal customer.
Right.
And working them through a very defined sales process. I didn't want to spend a lot of time going through lists or finding names or coming up with the right message and that's the thing. I think AI is really going to be a game changer where you have that one salesperson that can touch 2, 3, 4 times as many people, and dramatically increase the quality, very few ball drops, all those things because the AI technologies that can support them. But so hard to get to that rinse and repeat. And that was when I started selling something was undefined. What I realized is, wow, you're standing on shoulders of giants when you're, as a salesperson, step into a well-established product, customer base, value
Absolutely.
proposition, brand promise.
One thing I did with AI, with Claude Cowork, actually, I did an export of my LinkedIn connections. I have 4,000 or so, and I care if you're a first first connection of mine in LinkedIn. I've had meetings with you I know you, or I can usually recall, or if I go through, I can say, oh, we connected because they worked at this company, which was a partner of my old company.
Right. Yeah.
Go through that. Hey, Claude, go through and tell me who in my LinkedIn connections works in IT or security. Go through and tell me who works in the legal field. And so generating these lists of hundreds of people segmented out by vertical. Go through and you can ask it questions you can ask it structured questions on unstructured data.
Love that.
So
I've hired people to do just that.
Yeah,
so go through and put it all in a spreadsheet and get the titles and because you only get so much from that spreadsheet that exports, and then you have to have some intuition. So that's that's going to be a game changer for sure.
Yeah. And this should become second nature to anyone going forward. Definitely the younger generation should basically be like, they should have superpowers.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. I know you're an educator. The young, like Ben, again, our marketing and growth associate comes in, and it's like, has basically been told, he's graduating this year, has basically been told, don't use AI on this, or whatever.
Yeah.
I basically told him, I'm like, if you don't use AI on literally everything, I'm going to let you go, because not out of any kind of like threat, that I want them trying to move into a robotic world. Is because I need you to do 5 times the work that so you're going to be my web designer now. You've never designed a website. You're going to go through my LinkedIn connect, but you're not going to actually do that by hand. And you're going to do all this at the same time.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be running agents that are doing these things.
Yeah. That's it's music to my ears to hear you say that, just because it's something I've been saying in the academy for years now. That this isn't a threat to what we're doing. These are the fundamental tools of any kind of, industry or business, any job that someone's going to have. And so we shouldn't be resisting, we should be teaching it. And I think, we're hearing just from your experience, it's like that expectation is now so much higher because the tools are so much more robust.
Every day something should be waking up. And what's happened in the world of, have there been any new hacks or exploits that we should know about? Or give me the last 5 big ones that relate most to what it is that we're doing.
Yeah.
Again, that was like a half hour of Googling and, whatever. Now, again, that should be 20 seconds every morning, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, well, and if you miss the boat, then everyone else is getting that advantage that you don't have.
Right.
Yeah. I've been using the metaphor lately. It's like you're at the train station, and the earlier the train you get on, the quicker you're going to get where you're going.
Yeah.
And you don't have to get on a train, but you're not going to get where you're going without that. But whatever you do, you got to get off the tracks.
Right. Yes. Get off the tracks.
Yeah. So tell me about it. So I think, just going to team now, you talked a bit about team. I think it's really interesting. You didn't hire, almost like entry level to grow into a role. You started with the dream team. You started, and that's why I think maybe the new startup world is the starting with a dream team. For when you think about growth and scale, it sounds like one of the advantages is now you have the people in place that know how to then take their area and grow it to whatever scalability it needs to be.
And they're going to be growing it through a combination of AI and people.
Yeah.
And they're going to be making that right call in real time as it happens. So you kind of start at the top. Here's one thing just kind of related to the conversation. If you encounter an experienced entrepreneur who's been around things a little while, and they're putting together a team, and you look at the team and it's a small team, and it's not just filled with people that they've worked with, that's a huge red flag as an investor, as someone thinking about joining that company or whatever. By the time you get to be my age, you should have a well-developed bench. You should have people that you can call on. You should have, at any given time, you should be able to put together, essentially assemble a startup of people that know you and want to work for you again because they've worked for you in the past and it was great. Success or fail. It doesn't mean that you made them, millions of dollars on some kind of success. It means that you treated them right. They've watched how you treated, other people in successes and the highs and the lows. I've been working with Chris Chapman since 1997.
Wow.
So almost 30 years I've been working in various companies with that guy.
Yeah.
He knows what he's getting into, and yet for some reason, he signed back up.
Still does it, right?
My co-founder worked with me at the Brandtech Group. When I heard she was on the market, I'm like, hey, why don't you come up and play? Well, let's do some fun things.
Yeah.
And she was happy to sign up. She comes up from Maryland twice a week.
Wow.
All the way to Philadelphia, 2 hours plus, commute time. We believe very much in office, that those days are very important. But again, she wouldn't have signed up.
Yeah.
I knew Ben from a prior relationship. Small team of people that you knew prior to starting this company.
Well, Will, why don't you introduce the team? We're here with the whole HoneyCake team in one room.
Right? All right. So you guys know me, Will Luttrell, CEO founder. We have Chris Chapman, our CIO. We have Monica Quigg, our co-founder and VP of engineering. And we have Ben Robaugh, growth and marketing associate.
Okay. And this wasn't just like a contest to see how many people we get into a small room. This is your workspace, right? So this is like the true startup.
We've upgraded from a telephone booth earlier. We were all just had to sit on each other's shoulders.
Right.
It's
okay.
Barely bigger.
It's like, moving into bigger spaces. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like it. So I'd love to just maybe hear from each person, what was your experience? Maybe like when you first got the call, what was that like from Will? And what was it that made you think, oh, I think this is something I want to be part of? How do you want to start?
Sure, I'll go. Will and I have known each other for over 20 years.
Almost 30 now. 97.
Yeah.
Sure not
there. We are that old. I was looking for my next opportunity. When I evaluate what's next, I kind of think of three things: the people, the product, and the timing. The product will always change a little bit from the original vision, sometimes a lot from the original vision. Timing, you can be a little bit early or a little bit late. People generally don't change. People are non-negotiable. So you can adjust the other two. You can't change the people once you commit. And so that was a big part of it for me. But also, I think, given where AI is headed, it will be a part of our lives. We will at some point begin to think, what am I not willing to give up for convenience?
Yeah.
And we will become more and more relevant as people begin to realize what's happening there. And so, I think that, starting to think about it now is also the right timing. So I think it's a great confluence of those three things for me.
Yeah. And that makes me think about, Will, you mentioned to me earlier, so some bigger companies have had some really difficult, kind of high profile problems that this would potentially solve. Do you want to share a couple of those examples?
Well, just a few off the top of my head. Just recently, within the last 30, 40 days, Nike and McDonald's have experienced big hacks. They have been exposing not so much customer PII, but more internal corporate documents. And again, we're a document security company. The one that really raised my eyebrows, though, right as we were getting off the ground and launching, was the SharePoint hack. So Microsoft SharePoint, Chinese hackers, Salt Typhoon, the hacker collective, had what's known as a 0-day exploit on Microsoft SharePoint, which means the thousands and thousands of companies that use Microsoft SharePoint were all exposed. So it was uncovered, and feel free to Google this. We've got links on our site, and Bloomberg and Wall Street Journal, that these hackers had compromised the Department of Homeland Security, the National Institutes of Health, the U.S. Nuclear Atomic Agency, and these many thousands of companies that that anybody again that had SharePoint as their main thing. So this is a really big pressing issue. The approach that HoneyCake takes is a little bit different. And if there's one thing that your audience takes from this, stop relying on location as a proxy for security. Just because you have your files in a secure place, or what you think is a secure place, unless you bake security into the file itself, they can and will eventually be compromised, if not by a hacker, but potentially by an employee, or a mistaken share, or maybe a malicious share. So bake security into the files themselves is the only true way to keep these out of the hands of people who shouldn't be seeing them.
Yeah. And I don't want to state the obvious, but I don't know if we brought up, your terminology fits the metaphor of the cake. It's baking in that security, all the different layers of security.
Yeah.
I'll be the one that's not on the nose. But I really appreciate the, just the subtlety of it, but the accuracy of the metaphor.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Monica, tell us about your story coming to HoneyCake.
Mine's a little less eloquent than Chris's. Will and I were both trying to figure out what we wanted to do next, and he asked me to consult on an opportunity overseas. That was really that was more fun than anything else. And it just kind of developed into us playing with tech. I have a lot of respect for his technical chops and his ability to innovate and look toward the future and see what's coming. And I think we just started having a lot of fun with different things. And when we started playing with the the hierarchical key sets, it was just like this just kind of morphed into it. And it was really just fun. I mean, I don't have the grand vision as much. So I'm more at the engineering level, and I really enjoy being at that point.
Yeah.
Monica wins our longest commute challenge every week.
Great. Yeah. 2 hours? Is it 2 hours?
Yeah, it's okay. It's sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. Depending on traffic, right?
I bring the train up. But I think I also win the always hungry for lunch.
Nice. So how's your world as a developer, as an engineer, how's your world changed in the emergence of a lot of the AI coding tools and those kinds of things?
Obviously, it's changed it dramatically. So I think that it makes us much more productive. I think it also changes what you're focused on. So before you were focused on how much can I get done? Now you're kind of focused on, you can get so much done, but how do you get it done safely? And so that you're watching everything that's going through, and you're doing all your security checks, and chat's been great for our team for that. I think Will and I are more cowboy coders. We have a funny meme that circulates. We'll share that picture with you because I think that should be on front.
Right.
And I think chat kind of comes behind and goes, all right, slow down, security check. And then we have to fix everything that it finds. So it's funny because we were just talking about this last week. It finds so many things that we just, even as a very vigilant engineer, I don't know that we would find. And it makes it, as a security company, we are a security company, makes us much safer. So I think it just gives you that peace of mind that you're going to find much more than you would just as a regular engineer, as long as you're still using your engineering code. You're not just going, Claude, go do this. You're still using, the 130 years I think we have together engineering experience.
Yeah.
But you're adding that productivity that AI gives you. You just have to be careful how you mesh it together.
Yeah. And it's interesting. It sounds like you're also not just using it to help write, but you're also using it in kind of the quality assurance process.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What are some of the things that may have been most surprising that you could gain from that part of the process?
For me, it was more being aware of all the SOC 2 compliance and all the RPCs that it has knowledge of that I just don't have the time or the inclination to know, or even understand how my code might be impacted by the security vulnerabilities. So I think that it gives you, it knows all of them, and it can take your code and go, okay, well, you're not going to be compliant with this. And so it allows us to meet all those needs rather quickly, much quicker than even if we had 10 people in here.
Yeah.
And even then, I think you just wouldn't, nobody knows those by heart.
Yeah.
So
all
pretty
right.
interesting.
Yeah. Well, Ben, how about you? I think you've been around in life longer than everybody else, right? Or something like that, right? So tell us a little bit about your experience. How did you get here? And, what's been your experience like being part of a really small founder team?
Yeah, so I met Will 3 years ago when I first came to Philadelphia for college. And for over a year now, I've been trying to pick his brain, and I've been bugging him to essentially give me a job or to ask what the heck HoneyCake is. Fast forward to November, I hadn't heard from him for a while, and I was in the process of applying for post-grad jobs in like the wealth management space. And I was standing in Chick-fil-A line, and I get a text message from Will, and he asked me how I was doing. And I was, wondering why he was texting me, whatever. And it turns out he had some work for me. So I knew right then and there, once I got that text, that I needed to jump on the opportunity. Just because given his credibility as well as the credibility of our team here in this particular space as a 21-year-old, it's an opportunity I can't pass up.
Yeah.
In terms of the experience so far, I couldn't have asked for better coworkers. I have a lot to learn, not nearly as advanced and as smart as they are in terms of the AI and the coding and the vocabulary, if you will. But they've helped me out tremendously. And I still have a lot of work to do. But it's been a great experience so far.
Nice.
Yes, sir.
What's been the most unusual or unexpected part of being part of a startup for you?
That's a great question. I would say, learning about it in my classes, the one thing they won't tell you about startups is the amount of, time and energy and money that is burned on a consistent basis. Like it's not all, rainbow and sunshine. There's a lot that goes into it. Particularly in an environment where you're one of 4, one of 5.
Yeah.
You have the ability to make a huge impact, but at the same time, that comes with a lot of reality checks, a lot of, not doing it as well as you could have, or just going back to the drawing board, if you will. But these are all things that will help me tremendously with the rest of my time at HoneyCake and as a career. And it's just exciting. It makes you want to get up in the morning and achieve something. So
yeah,
it's been great.
So Will shared, the AI world we're in,
Right.
someone like you stepping into a role like this, the expectations higher for a lot more output with the tools. What are some of the maybe the ways AI can be used? What are some things you've learned that you didn't even know yet before you started doing it?
So recently, I've been working with Claude Code a lot. It's been my best friend in the office. And once I was able
we're right here.
Yeah. Now, besides these guys, but just like the sheer power and capability of AI, I feel like a lot of people underlook it. And, 6 months, a year from now, you don't know how powerful it's going to get. So like I touched on, just like being able to learn that now will just help me out 5-10 years from now.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I'd be interested. One of the things, when they look at the reasons why startups fail, one of the big things that comes up is the team. It just wasn't the right team. It wasn't, that. I'd love to hear just a little bit about your team dynamic. Because, one thing I think is pretty cool is, Will, you've had kind of connections for a lot of years with this group. So it's not like you just were getting to know each other. But what are some of the things that have really been part of the secret sauce as a team to really move the ball forward and to approach your vision?
Oh man. So I think that we all have very different personalities and they all kind of work together well. And that's actually very deliberate. I'd say that, Chris, for example, does a lot to offset Monica and my more high energy, kind of tightly wound style. Chris is like, look, I've seen this guy manage, thousands of servers through a hurricane, and I'm not exaggerating, like literally through a hurricane when Sandy hit, and we were both at IIS. And then, having Monica there to vibe check me on some of my crazy ideas, and for me to be able to pull Monica back down into, away from engineering head and more into product head. It's all just this very, very good mix. And then adding in Ben, we're all in our early 50s, late 40s if we're cheating. Bringing in, Ben, he's like, again, he's a piece that we don't have. He brings this whole younger energy, this hunger into the organization. So, when especially in the early team, you have to be really deliberate, not just in the skill set that you're bringing in, but to make sure that that the people that you're bringing in are also going to be able to kind of assimilate into that kind of structure. So yeah, we've been very pointed and deliberate about bringing everybody in, and I think that's probably an accurate assessment of everything and how we've been able to work like four of us output 6 because we all have our own kind of niche that we're in.
Yeah.
Will has been really big on driving us to come into the office, even though I come from Maryland. But it's really been, we always remark on it because we always grumble. Like Chris has to walk a whole 2 blocks,
Yeah.
But I think more often than not, when we get in the office, he'll have one of those like ooh moments. Like it's like the honey bake sound, anything. It's just crazy how when you're in the office, it's such a. I am having trouble.
It's creative.
Yeah, it's we all kind of feed off each other, and we all come up with. I mean, you've seen it. We come up with these ideas, and then it's like, oh, and then the whole day shifts.
Yeah,
and then it's sometimes our whole direction shifts, and our whole product. I mean, the agentic stuff has been huge.
Can I re-answer the best founder film I've seen in a while? With
of course. Yeah,
there was a documentary about the Beatles on HBO.
Oh, nice.
You might not think it, but that is a founder documentary because the creative process that they're undergoing, and it's like you get a lot of them, like Ringo's just there, effing around with, symbols, whatever. And Paul McCartney is over there coming up with what is eventually going to be a legendary song, but he's just got the first riffs and he's noodling around. He's singing this little melody, and then John Lennon comes in and he adds like a little guitar part, and then you watch this keyboard. It's just that is the kind of interaction you only get in real life when you're all in one place. You can't schedule that on a Zoom call, and that's what, when you were talking, Monica, about the importance of those in real life days, even though the fact that you have to come up from Maryland and, Chris has to walk 2 blocks,
it's uphill both ways.
Right.
Yeah, it's uphill both ways. It really, that's such an important thing. And we're big on that. And we always will be big on that. It's part of our bones.
Yeah.
Because of the Beatles thing.
You just never know where it's going to happen to. Sometimes it's standing in line for lunch.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's sitting here when we have our stand-ups that we don't stand up for.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Those magic moments, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So looking ahead to a day when HoneyCake is a massive company and, it's like affecting the world. And you talked about thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of users.
Millions, I think.
Millions, hundreds of millions, I think it was. Sorry, what's this team? What are some of the vision you have for this team in those days?
Does anyone else want to? I don't want to dominate the conversation.
Please dominate.
I think we will likely be surprisingly small still. I think that at the time when we've hit our 100 millionth baker, maybe we're 30 people. The reason why I can say that with some confidence is based on the tools that we have available to us. The fact that all of us have managed large scale platforms, so we know what that takes for things to be redundant and stable and secure at that scale. The real question is, how big will our sales, marketing, finance, legal, compliance teams need to be to service that kind of company? So maybe everyone here will just have a larger role in a bigger company, but I don't know if we're ever going to be a massive company.
Yeah, I love that. Chris, any thoughts on that?
No, I think, look, if we do the right things at the right times, we don't need to be a massive company, right? I think everybody here has felt the pain of, we didn't do that correctly, and now we need a 40-person support team instead of a 10-person support team, right? So ideally, we'll see around some of those corners. It won't require a huge company to service a huge user base.
Was it Anthropic that I read? There's some big company that has like one head of customer service or something like that, like one person working in customer service.
Wow.
There are companies that are scaling to very large sizes with very small headcount. And that's one of the reasons why I want to keep our design simple, is it should be self-evident how to make our software work. Like someone should just be able to fumble around and get it to work. And if they have any questions, it should be rare. And if we have a lot of questions of the same type, we should change the product to be more intuitive rather than hire more support people.
Love that.
Yeah, I think having been in product myself for one thing to keep in mind, it's better to do a few things very well than to do a lot of things kind of well.
Yeah.
And so as a startup, there are always many, many shiny things you want to grab for. Again, this is all pain we felt before. You have to be very thoughtful about the things you reach out and grab.
Yeah.
But if you do a few things really, really well, you'll be okay.
Monica, what do you think about the big company, small company?
I think they already said it well. Like Chris got one of his little sayings in there. That's kind of what he's known for. He's like our Confucius. So I think he said it quite well.
Nice. So what do you think about, what the prospects of what the future might look like as this company grows?
I mean, I'm obviously incredibly excited. It's one of those things. It's probably the first job in my life where I'm not necessarily worried about how much money I get paid. It's just more of like an interest, and you kind of become addicted to it eventually, especially when you see the results come in. Obviously, AI is going to become even more advanced, and with that becomes some consequences involved. And a lot of corporations are seeing the repercussions of not taking, file security seriously. I think that's where HoneyCake comes into play. It's a peace of mind, not necessarily all of this vocabulary about tech and AI and whatnot. It offers, a sense of comfort. So I'm really excited about the future, and I'm looking forward to keep working hard.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really stoked got the opportunity to meet the whole team and to get this input. Will, before we wrap this part up, if someone's hearing all this and thinking, I want to try this out or I want to learn more about HoneyCake, what are some ways they could get connected or get more information?
So individual users can just go to honeycakefiles.com. And from there, you can go to the download page, and we're available for free on Mac, Windows, iOS, Android. Download us and start playing. For enterprise users, yes, do the same thing, but then reach out to us. We'll schedule a proper demo, and we'll talk about how to get your entire organization protected, because the app that you can download for free is just a gateway. We have all of these integrations with Box and S3 and SharePoint, and we have agentic tools that we're adding. We've got file monitoring stuff. We have command line tools to do programmatic things where you can integrate this into your software as a true platform. But it starts with the app. So that's what I would say. honeycakefiles.com.
I love it. And I'll put all of those links in the description below, along with contact information for the team. And with that, let's hop back into our discussion with Will. So maybe a side question here. And I know a lot of my viewers are young people that are just stepping into the job market for the first time or wanting to do startups this early in their career. One of the things I'm starting to hear, it's like a lot of kind of what have historically been entry-level jobs are maybe going to be either displaced by AI or at least radically changed by AI. What's maybe the playbook for a young person stepping into this environment and saying, okay, there aren't like 100 jobs to apply for now, like there would have been in the past. There's maybe 10, and there was a lot of people chasing after those. What are some of the ways to get those entry-level skills when there maybe aren't as many entry-level type opportunities?
So, we've been talking a lot about AI, but it's still that human connection. So I met Ben 2 years ago, again, marketing senior at Temple. Every few months, he would reach out and just to say hello. He was taking different intern jobs here and there. It's like, hey, you might know, I'd love to stop by your office for lunch and just learn about what you're doing, blah, blah, blah. That kind of human connection and persistence and all of those things is still so very valuable. It's kind of touches on what you mentioned, that there's pieces of the sales cycle.
Yeah.
So as a young person, you have so many opportunities to just meet people, go to different functions, like network through your network's network.
Yeah.
Just look for local people to have coffee with, and then there's likely not going to be an opportunity there, but just follow up. So when, like me, it's like, wow, I need someone to kind of handle, if nothing else, just social media, and to start running this agentic marketing idea I've got in my head.
Yeah.
He'd already been in touch with me. And so we had a fractional COO at the time, and she was like, hey, you want me to put out, general postings at my old school? I'm like, no, I've already got the person. It's like, I'm just going to bring this guy in, because if there's one thing I know is that he's going to work hard and be persistent, because he's been annoying the hell out of me for like 2 years.
He's been proving it.
Yeah. So if he brings that same attitude, and he has, to the role. I mean, this interview set up here, you and I touch base and everything, but he comes into me one day and goes, hey, I reached back out to John to set up a video podcast.
Yeah.
And so great, self-motivated, hardworking, always asking for more stuff to do. So that would be my advice. Be persistent, reach out. You've got to put yourself out there. This generation is not as good at that as maybe our generation was, where the only way to meet people was in real life.
Yeah.
But you have to get out there in the world of meat and bites, not meat, physical world.
Yeah.
And
IRL.
put yourself in IRL. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not in the world of bits and bytes, in the real world.
Yeah.
The world of bits and bytes can all be done by, it can all be automated. You can't replace the world of inhuman.
Yeah, I love that. So moving to Thrive a little bit. So imagine for a minute that everything you envision possible for HoneyCake comes to pass in maybe, a couple of years.
Okay.
What's Thrive look like for you? Like what would be your kind of next horizon?
Our North Star is that people think of cake files like they do PDF. That we've created a new paradigm for security, that we've literally changed. This is going to sound so arrogant and egomaniacal, but that we've changed the world a little bit. That it's just a natural thing when you receive a cake file, your system knows what to do with it, or you personally know what to do with it. Oh, it's a cake file, and you're just using that. Success in a couple years means, tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of people having interacted with our security software, and they found it easy and painless, and their documents were safe and secure, and that's enterprise or private individuals.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, notice that's not a monetary goal.
Yeah,
all that stuff comes, like the business successes come with the value that you bring to others.
Yeah.
And I would be thrilled in any case if what I just described to you came to be.
Yeah. Well, the potential impact is certainly very obvious, and it's going to be exciting to come back and do this again, maybe in a few years.
In a couple of years,
to kind of
we own the whole building.
Right. I love it. I love it. Well, this has been awesome. Before we wrap up, there's a question I always like to ask. I gave you a little bit of a heads up warning. I always like to ask, founders in particular, when you go to the movies and you watch a movie about somebody starting anything, what's your favorite founder film?
So my favorite founder film that I've seen recently, and this is probably because of my age, is the one about the BlackBerry company.
Yeah.
I think that was just such a blast from my own past, because it was like, the technology that was, being developed and stuff. We watched the rise of BlackBerry and the fall of BlackBerry.
Yeah.
A lot of important lessons there about the ability the way the business world operates is there aren't so many rules. Everyone wants to give you all these rules, but there are no rules really. It's just a matter of just doing stuff.
Yeah.
And the big parable, the BlackBerry moral of BlackBerry's rise and fall is, you always have to be innovating.
Mm-hmm.
You always have to be wary of avoiding self-disruption. And what iPhone did to BlackBerry was very much that. BlackBerry should have been the iPhone. It was right there for them to take. Turning the question a little bit, there's this podcast, Acquired, that I'm addicted to. It'll be 3 hours on some tech company or some brick and mortar company. It could be like Nestle or Rolex, or it could be Google or Epic.
Yeah.
And again, a lot of the same lessons. How there really aren't rules. I mean, there's laws. Don't break the law, but you can just do things.
Yeah.
And the success goes to the bold and people who are thinking about things a little bit differently, and are willing to take risks and just go for it, and not try to go by the classic playbook. The classic playbook is what the managers that you hire later follow. Yeah. There's a reason why. There's this thing. Sorry, again, I know I'm talking to a Drexel guy teaching the next Minds of America, but there was this Fortune 100 CEOs and where they went to school. Maybe it was Fortune 500 CEOs and where they went to school.
Yeah.
Have you seen that list?
I don't know that I have, or at least not recently.
You know what the number one result was? Didn't graduate.
Interesting.
And number two, I think, was Penn. And then you know what you've got? You got a lot of state schools.
Yeah.
That are also populating a lot of that stuff. So, but I found that fascinating. I've hired a lot of, I'm a college dropout. I went to the University of Kentucky and dropped out. and joined a startup. It's fascinating how many PhDs and stuff I've hired, in data science and machine learning and physics and all that stuff. You hire or MBAs to go and actually manage things, but you need that founder energy.
Yeah.
And you need your founder to be a little bit of the crazy one. And then you get the other guys to kind of, and gals, to help rein you in maybe a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I've always wondered if, part of the success metric for teaching entrepreneurs is the dropout rate.
Yeah.
They dropped out, they went to start something, it exploded, because there is something to be said for sometimes the most, motivated, self-motivated founders I've found, they don't want to wait. They want to get out there. They want to do it. They want to build it. They want to make it happen. And
if someone comes to me, and I do a lot of investing and I do a lot of advising, and especially to young people, they might ask like, I'm trying to make this big decision. Is it a good idea? And it's like, well, if you're the right person, I wouldn't be able to talk you out of it.
Right. I love that. Yeah. Very cool. Well, thanks so much for doing this. It's great to get to talk with you and hear your story a little bit. I can't wait to see where it all goes.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Keep going.
I will.